All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Tuesday, November 10th, 2020, 7 o'clock. We'll start with roll call. To my left,
Councilman Homer Henry.
Mike Warrington, council member.
Shelby Carcelari, council member.
Ronnie Price, Mayor.
Troy Tabor, Council President.
Tim Berry, council member.
Okay. Invocation is going to be done by Pastor Jerry Smith of First Baptist Church. Thank you, sir.
Well, it's actually Faith, but that's okay.
Faith Baptist.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you, first of all, for the rain that we've received this week that we drastically needed in our area. We thank you for the city and the county which we live, serve, work, and socialize. We thank you for these who serve us, and we pray for safety in our community. We thank you that our elections here in Butler County went smoothly. We pray for our nation. We pray for the veterans that we recognize tomorrow. We pray for just our neighbors. We pray for those who work here. We pray for safety in the schools and businesses during this COVID time. We pray that we would remain faithful and positive and continue to grow together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And Pastor Smith is from Faith Baptist Church. Forgive me, sir. And now we'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have the young men at the back come and lead us in this. There you go. Want to start? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hold on, man. Hang on. Okay, at this time we'll have a public forum. If you'd like to speak, state your name, your address. Anyone? Okay.
Hi, I'm Garrett Kane from Boy Scout Troop 584 of Andover, Kansas. Thanks for giving us permission to host our fundraiser at the dog park and also the bake sale. It was a really big success, and we just wanted to say thank you very much for making it happen. We're very grateful. So, an update from our fundraiser. In the past, we built like dog runs for the homeless, or for the residents of the Union Mission Rescue, but they were in need of dog bedding for the dogs as the winter is quickly approaching. We raised a total of $126 in cash donations, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was enough to provide 58 meals for the men of the mission. And we received many donations, about a trailer full of dog beds, dog blankets, and supplies, as well as hygiene supplies and towels. It filled our trailer to the brim, and they weren't able to process it all in one day, and we're truly really grateful. We had to make 2 trips. Thank you very much for allowing this to happen, and thank you a lot very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We appreciate it. All right, we haven't changed to agenda and it come up quickly, so we'll, 6-1, we have to, I'm sad to say, council, we have to accept the resignation of Greg Snyder. He decided he no longer wanted to be a part of council and resigned immediately. So that'll be our first order of business, and I found out right before you did. All right. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
as far then as the appointment process, I mean, obviously before we've looked at maybe perhaps others that have ran or others that have showed interest or whatever is. as a process to try to find someone that might, want to take up that seat?
Yes, what we'll do is we'll do like we did with the last council member that Mayor Lawrence was gracious enough to let me help pick. We will post it on our website and we'll let people apply for it, and then we'll go through and pick the best candidate. So
And just a point of clarification, you do have 60 days to fill the position, so this was very late breaking, so we'll kind of regroup here and get a process put together to solicit resumes and applications for those interested.
Are we looking for somewhat of an area that's underrepresented perhaps on the council, maybe location-wise?
the last time, me and Mayor Lawrence, we're all aware that we don't do districts, but it is important to me, and I hope as well to y'all, that we have a good representation of the whole city. So, yes, that will be in consideration.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm as shocked as the rest of you, and yeah, bothered.
Well, I know that we had a kind of semi-heated discussion before. I hope I didn't cause him to not want to come back.
Me
Got to have a
too.
little bit of thick skin to be up here, though, but, that was something that's pretty personal due to, family circumstances before, so I could see where that might be a thing. It's unfortunate.
It
He
is.
spent a lot of time here, so.
And I have the utmost respect for Mr. Snyder. I don't have to agree with everyone to have respect for him. I just don't. That's not the way I view life, and I was saddened to hear it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure for the last, almost 4 years. It's been 3+ years working with Greg, so sad to hear that he has done this, but I do want to say it's been a pleasure working with him.
Well said.
And I believe his seat is up next November.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
If
do I
we
have a
don't
motion?
fill it in the 60 days, I mean, I'm sure we will. But saying we didn't, and his seat's up in November, we would still, what would happen? I'm just asking.
You'd have an election.
Before November, you'd be forced to?
It depends when the 60 days would fall, and it's too early for me to have analyzed the deadlines, but it could be that it requires a special election. I just have to look to see when the next regular election is, to see if it's soon enough or whether a special election would be required after the 60 days are up. And we haven't really
I'm sure it won't be a problem.
done that lately, so
Yeah,
I don't know the answer. I apologize.
In fact, we chose two since the last mayoral election, or the last election in our city, so. But I should say that I want to thank Greg first and foremost to his service to our country, and I also want to thank him for his service to our city.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank him as well. I do want to point out, I think his appointment wasn't up until 2023. You sure?
Next
Okay.
year. Do we need a motion to accept the resignation?
Yes, you do.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept Mr. Snyder's resignation.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
All-
oppose.
Pardon me.
I was
So I
thinking about
oppose.
doing that too, Troy.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, onward and upward. Consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
did
sir.
we make a motion to approve the agenda as modified?
Oh, I'm sorry. No?
I'd make that motion to approve the agenda as modified with 6.1.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, is that Susan? Oh,
No, that was Sheldon.
Oh, it was me.
oh, I'm sorry. Like,
I move to approve consent agenda items 7-1 through 7-3 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I'm a little rattled this evening. You have to forgive me. 8-1, 115 West Cloud Avenue, SU-2020-02. I now call agenda item 8-1, which is public hearing case, which I just stated. This is for special use request to allow an auto repair shop or body shop in the B3 Retail and Service Business District on the property generally located at 115 West Cloud Avenue, Andover, Kansas. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'd like to ask council I'll ask council if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they have a conflict of interest. Okay. Has the city clerk received any protest petitions on this case?
No protest petitions were filed in the office of the city clerk within the required 15 days following the Planning Commission public hearing on October the 20th.
I now ask city council members if they have received copies of the draft minutes of the Planning Commission for October 20, 2020, which summarizes the hearing on the case.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I now call on City Zoning Administrator Les E. Mangus to provide us with a report on this case.
At their October 20th meeting of the Planning Commission, they held a public hearing to consider a special use to allow an auto body shop at 115 West Cloud. This particular body shop use is not one of the permitted uses in that zoning district, so the special use process is required. Planning Commission had some debate about the particular use and especially the screening of the storage lot accessory to the body shop, but ultimately resulted in a affirmative recommendation to the city council to adopt an ordinance for the special use.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask Les? So there's no concern of contamination of the ground based on the type of, an auto body shop? No?
I don't know that I'm the person to answer that. I think it would probably be no more or less than any other auto repair shop that may have leaking fluids or a parking lot at the Dillons across the street. There are leaks from autos all over the country.
Can we stop that, please? Can we get rid of all the leaks? I'm just kidding. Okay, all right.
I guess, Mr. Mayor, the only question I have is, so it's already gone to site plan, it was tabled there, and then, but now the zoning is a different thing, correct?
Correct. The two aren't connected in any way, site plan and this special use ordinance.
Les, you
Of course,
talked,
of course, the site plan couldn't be approved and a building permit couldn't be issued without this special use ordinance.
Les, you spoke about screening. Can you explain more about what they were going back and forth on the screening?
Sure. The applicant intends to have storage, as every body shop has, for those cars that are queued up waiting to be repaired. And oftentimes those vehicles may be inoperative, so they put them in a screened yard. What the applicant had presented was a chain link fence with slats, and And the Planning Commission talked about that quite a bit and then recommended that the Site Plan Review Committee take issue with that and ask for a solid screening fence of something other than chain link with slats.
Then that would be on this property that we're looking at.
Yes.
And the screen fence would be along Cloud only or on the west side as well?
Actually, the Andover Road frontage and Cloud frontage would have small segments of fencing, but mostly would be gates to access the back storage lot. And those gates would also be solid. The majority of the screening fence would be along the west side and the south side.
Okay.
Can you answer a question? How is this any different than like the Zips car wash next door? Did Zips have to go through a?
They did.
Did they?
As a
Okay.
matter of fact, yes.
Okay.
And when Zips went through it, it only changed it for that plat?
The
Am I
special
saying that
use
right?
for the car wash was specific to that lot and block.
Okay.
And that particular use.
Thank you, Les. And I saw in I think the minutes from the zoning meeting, or the planning commission and zoning, board of zoning, that I think Bill Johnson, said that they weren't opposed to doing the cedar or anything screening, correct?
Correct. The latest version of the site plan that was submitted for site plan review did show a solid cedar screening fence.
Just so y'all know, the applicant is here tonight, so he's very well of the expectations of not only planning, zoning, site plan, and the mayor. So, but he's here.
I think the biggest thing is the screening I think we've all had questions about that, and obviously the planning and zoning board did as well. So I think the owner should take that to heart of, we don't want to see damaged cars, driving up and down Andover Road.
I agree, and I think in the notes too, Spangles was asked but they approved. And I don't necessarily see this business really any different than Jiffy Lube that is, I believe that's on the map there just to the east, so. I realize it's two different businesses, but same auto industry.
Is the front of the building, do we know, is the entrance going to be towards Andover Road or is it going to be towards Cloud? I can't tell.
Andover Road, I
Is it
think.
going to be Andover Road?
Andover Road,
Okay.
they have a large canopy at the front door with kind of a drive-through area
Oh, there.
that they
Okay.
might
Yeah, I see
inspect
it.
the vehicle for damage that's drivable.
Unfortunately for the body shop, they have to share a driveway with Zips.
Yeah.
And we all know that if you drive by there when they're busy, there's water 2 lanes out on Andover Road. And when they fix a car, they often detail it like every single time and make sure it's clean. So he's gonna have to take cars out of water hole because he can't get an entrance to his property other than the shared with Zips. So correct me if I'm wrong, there's also gonna be an entrance from Cloud that will be traffic calming on the way in and out, correct?
Yes, there is a two-way driveway approved for the northwest corner of the subject property.
Yeah, on Cloud.
Right.
Not really on the same subject, but kinda as part of the business. Will this company have a wrecker service?
I don't know that.
Okay. All right.
The applicant is here as well as his agent if you have specific questions for them.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I think we only have one wrecker service in town, so that would make, if they do have one, that would be our second one.
Most auto collision centers do not have their own wrecker service. Generally, it's brought in from wherever. The one here in town is kind of a outlier in that particular business.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the Planning Commission's findings of fact and recommendation for approval for special use case SU-2020-02 and approve an ordinance allowing an auto body shop in the B3 Retail and Service Business District on the property located at 115 West Cloud Avenue, Andover, Kansas.
Second.
Hold on, do we have to finish business before we can vote on this, correct? Public comments and what have you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, you have a motion. Has it been seconded? Okay. You definitely need to give the applicant the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
If they desire.
Okay. Hello. Does the applicant have a wish to present any new information?
Sorry, Mr. Kuykendall.
Oh, you're fine. Jeff Kirkendall. Yes, as far as the fencing, it is all, we did cedar fencing around those two sides. Tow service, we will not have our own. We'll be in negotiations with the one Andover currently has, along with other ones to see who can fulfill our needs.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Kirkendall?
I have a comment as well.
All right.
My name's Don Kimball, 2815 East 13th, Andover, Kansas. The architect for the project. In addition to the 6-foot cedar fence, the site plan guidelines call for a 3-foot landscape buffer of either plantings or berms. So at the west and south property line, we're going to move in 3 feet on each side, set the fence, and then that 3-foot landscape strip will have full landscaping in it.
Wow.
So it'll look very attractive from those two vantage points as well.
Very good.
Thank you.
And by the way, thank you for opening up a business in Andover.
Oh, well, thank you for the opportunity.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Kirkendall? Or Mr. Kimball? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Public comment. Does anyone from the public wish to respond to the applicant's information or provide any new information? Does the applicant have any further responses to, oh, never mind. We didn't have any. All right, now, where were we at?
My motion was seconded by Tim.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Second here. All right. I now call agenda item 9-1, zoning case number Z-2020-8. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'd like to ask council if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they have a conflict of interest.
No.
No?
I will now ask council if any of them have received any ex parte verbal or written communication prior to this agenda item which they would like to share.
Yeah, certainly I had seen the plans of this before, but not, discussed per se, my opinion on it per se.
Okay. Thank you.
There was an email that I forwarded to city clerk from Megan Keiss. It was sent to all of us.
And it's also on the bench
Yeah.
for everyone to
Yeah.
look at.
Just so you can confirm, Mr. Mayor, everybody's had access to that email that was provided?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Including Jenny and Susan and all the council members. Yes, sir.
There's a hard copy printed as well, JT, right?
I now, excuse me, I now ask the council members if they've received copies of the draft of the Planning Commission for October 20, 2020, which summarizes the hearing of the case. I now call on City Zoning Administrator Les Mangus to provide us with a report on this case.
At that same October 20 Planning Commission meeting, your Planning Commission held the required public hearings to consider some amendments to the Heritage Mixed Use Planned Unit Development Plan. Those amendments involve some increased building heights and some reconfiguration of zoning parcels for the planned unit development. Ultimately, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of these changes with no conditions. The applicant and their representatives are here tonight if you have any questions specifically for them.
So Les, if we vote for this, will this change or authorize for this entire parcel to let buildings be higher, or are we talking one certain area of this parcel?
It's very specific changes to parcels 4 and 6.
Okay.
Not the entire planned unit development.
Sorry, where's 4? Never mind, disregard. So the closest house to those would already be in once the heritage homes are built, would be those homes, correct?
No, some of the old homes would be close. Right, yeah.
Probably the closest single family would be on the east side of Yorktown.
Yeah.
Okay,
And there is a tree line there, if I recall, right?
correct.
Yeah.
And this all fronts on to US Highway 54.
Well, I think it fronts the street that is curvy and in the center there.
Yeah.
I don't think it fronts.
Kind of the primary,
I think Lance has a
Viewable street.
pointer. Can you highlight the parcel we're talking about here?
I see.
We're not talking about 7, we're talking about, yeah.
4, and then the one next to it, right, 6?
4 and 6, correct? This slide is okay, he's back to the slide that's showing now, do it quick, is the amended parcel. You can see that there's one parcel in the center that changed its shape and size a bit because it eliminated another sub-parcel. Where's Waldo? Tell me which one changed.
I see.
So the new homes being erected are closer than the mobile home across Archer probably, or really very close to it,
A
correct?
similar distance.
Yeah. Anything else? No?
No.
Any more questions? Have any written communications been received? No?
No protest petitions have been received in the office of the city clerk
Okay.
within the required 15 days following the Planning Commission public hearing on October 20th.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anyone, we would like to welcome anyone interested in this agenda item and lay out a few ground rules. Please. Oh,
Shucks,
you
That's
lost
what I
me.
heard.
that's what I heard.
Okay, does the applicant wish to present any new information?
Jason Gish, MKEC Engineering, representing the applicant. I'll stand for any questions if there was anything that's confusing or unclear that you had. But otherwise, I think the minutes from the planning commission, if you have any questions regarding those, I'd be glad to go back and discuss them.
No offense to Lance's pointing, but the 4 and 6 I got are that north-south one there.
Yeah, so if we look at the previous slide, it was the previous PUD, the original. And what we did is basically, what we're amending is this area right here, which used to have a street right away and a parcel 4 and a parcel 6, 6B. So we've basically struck one parcel from it all together and then just made the adjustment to combine them into one. So there's little things like the total net area of the development has changed. So all those little nuances are picked up in the language, and then we made the adjustments, if you will, to balance things back out.
I think a lot of folks are very concerned with the height of the buildings. The whole 5-story
Sure.
being the tallest building in town. We are only speaking of basically what we see in our packet, was it the apartment complex, is that correct?
Correct. We have a provision. Originally, the past PUD showed a 4-story height.
Correct.
And we're asking for 5. And if we want to jump into the next slide, I can kind of just show you from the comprehensive plan.
All right.
That a few pages into that comprehensive plan, it makes reference to the corridor study. And so I think it's on page 25 of the comprehensive plan here, so it's probably 4 pages, 5 pages in. But basically, there's a reference, keep going, please. Yeah, so either one of these, so these are basically showing kind of this lifestyle corridor. And if we go to the next slide, it kind of shows up in color, so to kind of show you these areas. But anyhow, right in there, basically, I'll just read it verbatim. The corridor study recommends the development be in 3 to 6-story buildings. So that's what it's trying to reference, and you can get this out, but it's basically referencing this lifestyle center. And so we still would fall within the parameters of what's been kind of laid out in the comprehensive plan and that vision. I think the thing that differentiates this is one of the references in the comprehensive plan is this may not happen in the immediate future. Well, we're going to, try to do something that actually gets that there now. And that's what we're asking you for approval for.
As a side note, Jenny, can we get a lime green pointer next time? Because I can't see red, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. I'm like, I don't see the dot. I don't know where it's at. It's up there somewhere.
All right. Any other questions?
We just need a long pointer stick.
Let's go ahead.
Can I make a motion? Or are we not there yet?
Not here, there yet. Thank you.
Yep, certainly.
We would like to welcome anyone interested in this agenda item and lay out a few ground rules. Please come to the podium, give your name, address. Comments from the individual members of the public will be limited to 3 minutes. The governing body has provided the draft minutes and a video of public hearing has been made available, so please limit your comments. Information not previously shared at the public hearing held on October 20, 2020. Does anyone from the public have any new information? Do any of the council members have any questions for a public presenter? No. Does the applicant have any further response to public comments? No.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the Planning Commission's findings of fact and recommendation for approval for zoning case Z-2020-08 and approve an ordinance amending the Heritage Mixed Use Preliminary Plan Unit Development as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Public hearing, General Obligation Bond Series C 2020. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Just so we're not confused. There's 5 of us now, and you said motion carries 6-0, so I wanted to
shit.
correct the record.
I've been doing that all evening, man. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you haven't. I'd have said something. It's the first
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, for your public hearing at this time, you will just open up to the public for comments related to the General Obligation Bond Series C 2020. There were notices sent out to property owners who will be impacted by the special assessments that result from this bond issue. So this would be the time where they may come forward and ask questions or provide comment.
Are we open for comments online and everything?
No, not specifically for this.
Okay.
Good question, though. Should we think about that in the future?
I don't know that we have an official public hearing online system set up. It's probably something we should look into, but I think we'd need to think through that quite a bit for,
Sure.
since this is a legal proceeding, then I don't think it's quite as simple as just an email address
Opening
or
Zoom or
something.
what? Okay.
I will let you know that as people have had questions, they have called me. So it's not as if they haven't had an opportunity to talk to me already.
All right. Thank you.
Do we need to move to close the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to help a little bit. So we just need to confirm there's no one here present who wants to discuss the special assessments on the 13th Street improvements, the Flint Hills Phase 6 improvements, the Teradyne Third Estates subdivision improvements, the Prairie Creek improvements 4th phase, or the Prairie Creek improvements 5th phase, or the USD 385 paving improvements. If there's no one here to address those, then you can entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
before we move on, just a thought, perhaps. I guess I could ask it later, but a discussion on the growth of Andover, perhaps, and the speed at which it's happening, and if, positive and negative effects it might or might not be happening on various aspects of us, of the city. I mean, we've had pushback, which is appropriate, but to really dive deep might be worth a workshop on its own, maybe. And maybe that is part of the long-term comprehensive development plan, I'm not sure, but I feel some spidey sense saying it's probably time to have that discussion so that we don't outgrow our ability to manage our city
Growing pains.
without jacking our, taxes up, if that makes sense. So I don't know how to have that discussion or who professionals could give us insight or whatever, but I'm going to recommend we do that at some point.
So next year, approved in your 2021 budget, will be an agreement to develop our next 10-year comprehensive development plan. So we will be having a lot of those conversations during the second half of 2021. So I don't know if you want to wait that long, or if you kind of want to have a primer before then, look for an opportunity on a workshop, but we'll have a lot of those conversations over the next 12 months.
It's hard to say, but we just approved several expansions to the city here, in addition to the heritage, with the last 2 motions, and it's probably going to be a pretty significant amount of new people moving here, impacting everything. So I don't mind waiting, but I definitely have it then, for sure.
It might be better sooner than later, though.
A lot of that is, by the way, a lot of that is in motion. For example, I had a meeting with the head of the wastewater plant today about things that we have to look forward thinking as far as everything from more water, more outgoing, all that stuff. So some of it is being looked at, but yes, we're definitely open to.
I mean, there's all kinds of things, like wells.
Yeah.
Do we allow them anymore? I'm not saying we don't get me wrong, but if we're drying up all the wells, then that's a challenge. Water, sewer, utilities, roads, fire and police, and that's a lot to get through, I think. Okay. All right. Is that my piece?
The next item, the 10.2, the corrected certification of total final cost. The only change from what you approved at the last council meeting was there was a typographical error on the total cost for the USD 385 paving. The notice that was sent out to 385 had the correct numbers in it. It was just the numbers in your packet that were wrong. There's a $20,000 typo. So that has been corrected, and we ask that you approve the corrected certificate of final cost for all the improvements that JT just mentioned.
So we approve it again? Is that what we need to do?
Yeah, they approve the corrected certificate, yes.
Okay.
So I do have a question. Whose job was it to double check the amounts?
It was a combination of mine and someone from Triple Wolf and Garrettson. I had sent them the correct information, but when it got into the council packet, they used the old numbers instead of the new numbers.
To be clear, I think it's a $2,000 typo.
Yeah, it looks like it's from 77 to
79. A9 was
Right,
transposed to a 7.
Yeah.
And the numbers were all correct, and the totals were all correct, and the special assessment notices were all correct. And actually, Donna caught and corrected the 7, but we did not get it into your packet, so it is my office's fault. To be clear, that's why we have the public hearing. If we made a mistake, this was the opportunity for the public to audit us and say, you know what, my lot has too many specials on it because it's more than this lot. And Donna does a terrific job of making sure that's not the case. And so this is kind of a unique teaching opportunity because we just completed the public hearing and the public didn't find any errors, but Donna did. And so we're going to correct that because we would never want to do it incorrectly.
So we're doing these two separately, 10.1 and 10.2.
Yes.
Okay,
You already
cool.
did 10.1.
Huh?
I think you already did 10.1, which is
Yes.
the public hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
I motion that we approve the corrected certificate of final cost for improvements of the 13th Street and in Prairie Creek phases 4 and 5, Flint Hills 6, Teradyne 3rd Edition, and USD 385 property.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? 5-0, correction certification of total final cost. All right, 10.3, public sale resolution.
Mr. Mayor, with all of those corrected and ready to levy, we are preparing to have a public sale of bonds on December 8th that would finance all of these to try to capture the historically low interest rate environment we are in for all of these special assessments that would be levied. What you have before you now is a public sale resolution that would call a public sale of approximately $4,910,000 worth of our Series C bonds. And that sale would be held at your regular meeting on December 8th.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing sale of $4,910,000 in Series C 2020 general obligation bonds of the city of Andover, Kansas, and authorizing the city of Andover's bond counsel and financial advisor to prepare the necessary notices and documents to conduct such sale.
Tick tock.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Special assessment ordinance, 10.4.
Mr. Mayor, item 10.4, having given the opportunity for the public to speak, now takes all those total final costs and adopts an ordinance that levies those special assessments on all of those properties for the period of repayment. This is the special assessment ordinance that will levy that tax. It is important that you do it now because by December 8th and the time in which we sell the bonds, people will have an opportunity, if they want to pay their specials off in advance. Or they have an opportunity to complain in court about the special assessments, but after 30 days, the statute of limitations is over, and we time that such that by the time we issue the bonds, there can be no contest of the special assessments. So this is the ordinance that levies the special assessments on the public hearing we just had.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just had one question for the Prairie Creek fifth phase. There's 10 lots at 2851 and another 12 at 2051. And then I guess I'm unsure, there's 262,000 outstanding from there that would be levied against the whole rest of the unplatted. Is that the assumption that whatever the math is, that they would also be around the same number when they were become platted? Or is this just a, because it would be odd to have your neighbor at 2851 and then you at 10,000 for the same exact.
That is the developer's hope, based upon the number of lots they project for that area.
Okay.
And we do have letters of credit covering that, should it not develop as quickly as they want. We do have letters of credit covering the unplatted and the platted portions.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor,
Sir.
I would move to adopt an ordinance levying special assessments against properties in Prairie Creek Phases 3, 4, and 5, Flint Hills 6th Edition, Teradyne 3rd, and USD 385 for improvements in said additions, and authorizing staff to send notice to property owners in such additions detailing special assessments and allowing such property owners until December 3rd of 2020 at noon to pay said special assessments in full without incurring interest costs related to debt issued for financing such improvements.
Second.
Any further discussion?
What does the school usually do? Do they just pay it off, or do they? Okay.
Yes, they've already indicated they will pay theirs off ahead of time.
Nice.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Cornerstone 10th Edition, 11-1, water sewer paving and incidental drainage project bids. Les Mangus will speak for us, or to us.
This morning, we opened the bids for the Cornerstone 10th Edition. If you'll remember, the public improvements bid in this project combined the water, sewer, paving, and incidental drainage all into one bid package. The cumulative total of the bids was below the petitioned amount for the project. However, the sanitary sewer portion of the project cost exceeded the petition. So in order to rectify that, the developer has cut a check to the city for that amount that exceeds the bid price and the crawl that's allowed in those petitions. So we've kind of rectified that situation, and we'd recommend to you that you accept the lowest qualified bid from Conspec Incorporated, doing business as Kansas Paving. Jason Gish is here from MKEC if you have any questions specific to the project.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the lowest qualified bid from Conspec Inc., doing business as Kansas Paving in the amount, which they have a cool logo, by the way. Anyway, in the amount of $566,001.25, and to accept a check in the amount of $270.56 for the amount that the sanitary sewer portion exceeded the petitioned engineer's construction estimate, and reject all other bids, including bidders not in compliance with Resolution 20-05, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract, the Cornerstone 10th Edition water, sewer, paving, and incidental drainage improvements.
Second.
I didn't hear any of that. Say that again.
So, I would move as presented.
Any further discussion, Tim?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Read it backwards.
Thank you, Les. All in favor? Say
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Meadowbrook Subdivision Paving and Stormwater Bid Award. And Rick's going to speak to us about that.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a previous council meeting, Meadowbrook Subdivision. You all approved the sanitary sewer and water improvements. This is the next phase of that project. The big difference between this and some of the other ones is this is 100% financed by the lots in this subdivision. The city is not carrying any portion of the project on this one at large. This was under the engineer's estimate and within the petition limits, and staff's recommending that you award the bid to Pearson's, the low bidder. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to stand for them.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to accept the low bid from Pearson Construction LLC, Wichita, Kansas, for paving and stormwater to serve the Meadowbrook subdivision in the not-to-exceed amount of $188,499, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Do we not have a concern that, I mean, they're way cheaper? I mean, usually Mike asks that question, but.
Didn't we talk, this was one we talked about
Oh, is this
last
the one we
month.
talked about
Yeah.
last time? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, so, this one is not terribly lower than the previous. On the water and sewer, that one was quite a bit lower.
Yeah.
There's
There's more on
site
the,
cleanup.
there's more on the paving portion of this that was much lower than the engineer's estimate, and that's why it was last month or whatever that I had a concern on that, but Rick assured us that, that was fine.
Okay, I'll point out that the number that seems to be the biggest difference is the site cleanup. They're only at $3,000 and everyone else is 25 or more. So I wonder if they're just gonna kick it off to the side of the road, if they're actually gonna clean it up fully, or.
We have
What's your
inspectors
address?
on site, and we will make sure they comply with the
Big difference, though.
plans and specifications.
All right.
Darren, where are we at? Any further discussion? Well, I already asked that. Any more discussion? Right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Prairie Creek Road Bridge, Wichita Area Metropolitan Plan Organization Project, KDOT Project Programming Request. Man, I barely got all of that out, Les.
Well, you could have used all those acronyms that KDOT's famous for. This Prairie Creek Road Bridge is a project that we've had in the WAMPO TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, for several years. It's finally risen to the point where we're ready to get started on the preliminary engineering. You might remember that this project, since it is a bridge over the Kansas Turnpike, is a project that we share the local expenses with the Kansas Turnpike Authority. So of that 80-20 split that we referred to with the WAMPO organization, in this case, the KTA will be 10% and the city of Andover will be 10%. It's a working relationship that we've had going on with the Kansas Turnpike since something like 2004. They've been really good partners on these bridges as they come up for improvements over the years. The Form 1302 is a form required by KDOT that officially starts the financing program for the project with the federal government. You know, the WAMPO funding is money that comes from the federal government, is passed through KDOT, and the WAMPO is the selector of projects. So our relationship from this point out will be with KDOT. So this Form 1302 is what gets it all started.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to accept the I'm in the wrong one. I move to approve the mayor signing the Kansas Department of Transportation Form 1302 project programming request to initiate the Prairie Creek Road Bridge over the Kansas Turnpike WAMPO project.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just one comment.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Les, could we go over this capital improvement program, not tonight, but, all the priorities? I don't think the new council knows what some of these are. I think it'd be a good opportunity just to go through these, and and understand what the different colors mean and the priority numbers and how far out some of these are at a workshop at some point.
Sure. That CIP is a little hard to follow because in my world, I work over the course of about 20 years from the time that a project is a concept to when it's actually completed in construction.
So how long has this one been in your purview?
This one started back in about 2010.
Wow.
One of the things with the Kansas Turnpike, the Kansas Turnpike was opened in something like 1956. And it was built over the course of only a couple of years. So nearly every bridge on their system has the same born-on date. So it has the same failure date. Right now, they're replacing bridges from end to end on their system because they're 70-ish years old.
And that's why we, excuse me, is it Main Street? The 13th Street Bridge?
Other one
Yes.
we're taking down.
The one we're taking down?
Sure, the Main Street Bridge has structural failure and of course it's geometrically inadequate. Doesn't have enough clearance either vertically or horizontal to today's standards.
Do they have a date on shutting that down completely to where we're not using it? Do you know?
The KTA's hopes are to remove that bridge next year sometime.
Okay.
Thanks, Les.
Any further discussion?
I guess I could mention two things. One is being a WAMPO project, there's only so much money that's in the WAMPO budget. And so projects amongst 22 different entities are all programmed over many years ahead of time, trying to make sure that it's fair the way it's handled, but just as importantly, that everything is planned out and lands in a proper way to be able to have everything done eventually. So some projects can stay there for 10 years, but it needs that. And it's pretty, I think, exceptional that WAMPO is providing 80% of the cost to this, as well as some of the other projects on here, like the bicycle pedestrian bridge over Highway 54, which is slated to start in 2022. Is that what I see on here? Or at least our money is starting then.
It's in the program for financing about 2024, 2025.
I see. So when someone asks me, I should say approximately when might that bridge start?
25-ish.
Okay. I like the word
Yeah.
ish. I use that a lot, actually.
It all depends on when the new road goes through, because I'm assuming that it would be built.
Well,
No, this is ahead of that.
right now, we're contemplating a freeway project. And we might see some movement on KDOT's part towards building that freeway from Highway 96 further east. And likely, the conversations are that we'll be phasing that freeway into possibly 3 phases that could reach Andover in the 7 to 10-year range from now. If that's the case, Troy, we'll be reconsidering our expenditure in a $3 million bridge for pedestrians if there's a freeway that's just a few years out.
I guess in my mind, I wasn't seeing actually Kellogg or 54 being done for another 20-ish years, but you're thinking more.
We've been having some really good conversations with the Department of Transportation on that. They were a little sticker shocked at the latest awards for the Ike program because we submitted a project to them that began at K96 and ended over at Prairie Creek Road and had a price tag of nearly $500 million.
$500 million?
Yes, so they were a little sticker shocked, and they came back to us and asked us to reconsider that and divided it into some smaller phases that would allow them to spread the money across the state a little bit better each 2-year selection.
You know, we had a WAMPO meeting today, and the North Junction, which is all of the changes, 135, 235, 96, and that number was $350 million. So it's pretty insane that this would be $500 million versus all that would have to happen up there.
That 350 million was just one phase.
I don't
Of
think it
the
was just
North
the gold
Junction.
phase. It was gold and green, so it was a two, including buying land.
Right.
But anyway, wow. That's a lot of money.
Yes,
Should get
it
in the
is.
paving business or something.
Both of those are big numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Half
right.
$1 billion.
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 14-1, compression release engine braking. Police Chief Keller will talk to us
No.
about it.
No, we're on 13.
13.2, Mr. Mayor.
13.2, sir.
Sorry. Sorry.
I skipped one, didn't I? Preliminary consultant request for proposals.
I think we're,
Our first hard task here for that Prairie Creek Road Bridge is to select a preliminary engineering consultant. And the way we've typically done that in the past is to follow the KDOT process for qualifications-based selection. We solicit firms, we review their qualifications, and we have a committee that recommends a firm to negotiate the contract to design the project. That's our first step, and the next agenda item will carry that just a little bit further.
Forgive me, but why not the engineering firm then that we are contracted with? That we recently, didn't we recently just contract at the last meeting?
We have a contract with a city engineer, professional engineering consultants, to kind of be our reviewer of projects. Of course, we'll solicit them as one of the candidates for this project, but we'll consider several others that are qualified. KDOT suggests that they'd like to see 5 to 8 firms reviewed before we narrow it down to one.
Thank you, Les. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to authorize staff to solicit qualifications for Prairie Creek Road Bridge over the Kansas Turnpike Project preliminary engineering consultant.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mike Warrenton seconded that, Susan.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Selection committee.
After we solicit those preliminary engineering consultants' qualifications, we have a committee that reviews all of their qualifications. The council typically appoints one member from the council to sit on that review committee, and that member has been in the past the liaison to the public works departments, and in this case, that would be the mayor, but the appointment is up to the mayor and council.
Ronnie, you want to do it?
Absolutely.
Then I make a motion, I'd move to approve the appointment of Mayor Ronnie Price to the Engineering Selection Committee for the Prairie Creek. Are you dancing to me speaking?
I'm moving. I'm
Okay,
moving.
sorry.
Because you're moving, you're moving.
Approve the appointment of Mayor Ronnie Price to the Engineering Selection Committee for the Prairie Creek Road Bridge over the Kansas Turnpike project.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Keep shaking, Homer.
Compression release. Compression release engine braking. Chief
Yes, sir.
Keller.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, City Council, we've discussed this a couple times in workshops, but before you is a ordinance with a prohibition on compression release engine braking systems. Basically, this ordinance, if adopted, would prohibit the use of these release engine braking systems, commonly called Jake brakes. It prohibits the use of them inside the city limits unless the vehicle's other braking systems were to fail. And our city attorney, JT, put this ordinance together, and between him and I, we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
What is the fine?
It's a traffic infraction under the STO is the way we did it, so the fine would be within limits that are up to the judge, and of course, if you have numerous violations, the fines can compound.
Right, typically the violation for a violation like this would be the $59 plus $90 court costs.
Chief, can you explain how you will monitor this?
Very difficultly.
I think the signage is pretty good. They're used to that.
Yeah. So you'll obviously have to put up some signage and in two different directions or wherever.
Obviously, it'll prohibit it anywhere in the city, but the common violations are going to be on 54. So there'll have to be, the ordinance will have to be published before it becomes effective. In the meantime, there'll have to be signage put up. And anticipation that you would approve this ordinance, I've already set up training for our officers through the Highway Patrol. I've been in law enforcement 40 years. I don't know what a Jake brake looks like. So we're bringing in the Highway Patrol. We're scheduled for December 8th and 10th, I believe, to train all our officers on what to look for. Because their argument would be the other system failed. So we're going to set up some training for them too.
Okay, so it is difficult to determine if this is happening. I, for some reason, thought it was super obvious from how it was, but it's not.
Well,
If somebody's
obviously
done
the
it.
sound. The problem is a lot of these drivers love to hear the sound of their engines when they come through. And so, but there are some things that the officers will have to be trained on, but we're working on all that.
Okay.
Do you know what your cost would be for signage around the city?
I believe the minimal to anything since we have our own sign making. So the expense on this won't be anything really other than the signage and the publication of the ordinance and the.
I will tell you, since it was mentioned from one of our council members, I have gotten a lot more complaints or mention of the exhaust brake from the public. So it is starting to be an issue. And I noticed, it seems to me like there's more of it now than there used to be, and I don't know if it's because there's more traffic or what, but I never noticed it when the council member brought it up. But as of late, I have had, not hundreds, but a handful of people email me or catch me in public and ask what we can do about it. And I don't see it getting any better, so why not now?
And I think it's good to point out too, Mr. Mayor, that, if the brakes on the truck fail, we're not saying that they can't use them, but just to randomly brake, correct, Tim?
I would hope that if their brakes fail, they're moving off to the side of the road and seeking help. That would be my hope.
It's also worth stating that I've rode all over the state of Kansas on my motorcycle, and it's very, very common in towns to have almost no population to have them on each end of town. So it's not uncommon. In fact, it's more common than not in the smaller cities.
It wasn't until Councilmember Barry, Tim.
Was it Tim?
Brought it up that when I was driving personally on the highway, I thought trucks were going over the warning system on the shoulder, but really they're braking for cars in front of them, and that's what gets that sound,
Wait, how'd
Pretty
that
good,
go?
Homer.
Yeah, very.
Did you practice?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we adopt an ordinance amending Article 6 of Chapter, was that 18 of the Code of City of Andover, Kansas by creating Section 18-602 relating to the prohibition of certain compression braking systems.
Second.
Okay, so that is Tim Berry was the first motion and Homer.
Homer,
Seconded.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you,
sir.
Chief.
We should nickname it the Berry Breaking Ordinance. The BDO.
Payment processing vendor, 15-1, request for proposals. Donna Davis will talk to us.
We are in the process, right now we have a vendor, payment processing vendor that handles payments for utility billings, rentals of the facilities, court fines and such. We've had them now for probably 5, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years?
Maybe 9.
9. And they work well for that. Unfortunately, the ticketing part for concerts, the vendor that we had last year, the last couple of years, is changing. And they are wanting, we have a couple of options. We can have our own vendor that would handle it, the payment, and we would receive the money as tickets are purchased. Or they can use their vendor, but we wouldn't receive the money till the end. So we're looking at this as an opportunity to try to find one vendor that can handle both sides of the house, the ticketing part and the needs that we have within City Hall for collecting credit card payments and checks and such. So we put together a proposal, and we're going to be sending this out with questions due back by November 23rd, and the proposals due back to the city by December 4th. We hope to bring you a contract mid-January. The selection committee will be the Assistant City Administrator, myself, the Director of IT, Director of Events, the Assistant Director of Community Development, and the City Treasurer. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
I do have one question, or a question. So if we were to use 2 different vendors instead of one, could we still do that? And I'm asking because what if you combine it together, it doesn't save the city as much as if you had split it? I know you're trying to do it for a little bit of convenience, but it's only a little bit of convenience, and if it's potentially going to cost us because we put it together instead of at least getting proposals either way.
We're looking at all options. If we find, because there's certain processing vendors that will work with the new system that planning and zoning is wanting to implement, there's certain vendors that will only work with the ticketing one. So we're having to look at both sides of that possibility. If we can find one and it's cost effective, great. If not, then we may need to look at what are our options.
Sure.
And the biggest issue, to be clear on the ticketing, is having our own merchant account. So we don't, through our current vendor, we're using their merchant account. And so what that means is the ticketing agencies are only willing therefore to pay us at the end after the event, which is not great on a cash flow basis considering all the expenses we have to pay for all the things that we bring in, for all of the wristbands, tickets, paying for the musicians, paying for the insurance, all of those things are coming due before the event. And so it's better to have the ticket money coming into the city in real time than to be receiving that after the fact. So the merchant account is really kind of that piece there, that if we could have our own, then that would be more beneficial.
And just so you know that the fee that's associated with this is not paid by the city. It's collected by the merchant account. They collect the fee and we receive 100% of our charge.
Okay. It just seems like a big math problem that once you get through all the proposals and what comes back and whether we get paid up front or we have to wait till the end, I think that also depends. Yeah, I understand we might have to float for a while, but if it turns out we get 5% more income and it's, a significant number, then I would say we would wait till the end. But if it's not, then certainly making sure we get it as it goes would be smarter. But again, it seems just like a math problem, but.
And
Chip-
just to be clear, we are not getting more money one way or the
Yeah.
other. We're passing the cost on to the customer either way. We're passing the full admin fee on to the customer. So we're not,
Losing a dime.
no.
No
Your
matter
dime.
which way
No,
we
it's
go.
better for us to just
So it's
get the money
convenience
sooner.
is the better- I get it.
And there's a possibility that by having our own merchant, the fee may be lower than the merchant vendor that the ticket vendor is using, so our customers wouldn't be paying as much in fees.
Yeah, ticket vendor's probably taking a little scrape off that too, would be my guess, but okay. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd authorize the release of a request for proposal for payment processing vendor and appoint the selection committee as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
I can't say this word. I've been trying for 2 years.
Mayoral.
Appointment, resignation.
Mr. Mayor.
Me and Jenny are competing over
Yeah,
here.
we are. Go ahead, Lance. I'm going to let you go. I've talked tonight.
Much like our agenda last week, Matthew Rossi, who was a member of both our Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, informed staff of his resignation upon his moving out of the city of Andover. His resignation from the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals was accepted by the council at the last meeting. Tonight is, for your consideration, is his resignation from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
And why didn't we do it last week?
We were not ready for the reappointment quite yet.
Oh, okay. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the resignation of Matthew Rossi from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Second.
Any further discussion? I do appreciate, by the way, I appreciate Matthew for volunteering in the first place or stepping up, but he had a lot of things go awry, I reckon. And so I wish the best for him and his family. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0, motion carries. Appointment.
So with that vacancy, the mayor has the power to appoint members to that advisory board, which must be approved with the majority of the council. In Matthew Rossi's place, the mayor has appointed Gary Israel, who's a member of our Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, our Subdivision Committee, and has served on numerous boards and committees throughout his tenure as a resident in the city of Andover. So that appointment is for the council's consideration.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I've had the, I guess, joy to be able to work with Gary a few times on several things, and I think he'd be an excellent fit. And I will also say he is a top-notch artist. So if somehow we could poach some of his time, if we ever need it for art stuff for Andover, I would
There you go.
push that too. And on that, I move to approve the mayoral appointment of Gary Israel to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board to a term set to expire in January of 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 17-1, attorney-client privilege, KSA 75-4319B2.
Mr. Mayor, I'm requesting an executive session this evening for consultation, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. We expect the session to include the governing body, the city administrator, myself, and my associate. The open meeting would resume at about 8:50 p.m.
Second. Oh, wait, so moved?
Moved. Second. Second.
Homer's first, all right? And
And Mike Warrington, second.
Excuse me.
Mr. Mayor, due to the length of the executive session and the fact that it's the last item on the agenda, unless there are other staff here tonight that you all feel like you need to see during member items, I would also ask that perhaps they could be free to go home.
Absolutely.
Thank you, those that did stay this long.
So, we need to vote on the executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I need a motion to come back into,
Do we have to have Shelby to do that?
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Now there it is. Okay.
We will return that.
We need.
Aye.
Yeah, we need to vote, can I get a motion? God dang it.
Just say all in favor.
Vote to
say
go
aye.
back in, vote to go back into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Say, all opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Motion carries 5-0. All right. On to member items.
I'd be remiss, Mr. Mayor, if I didn't mention that the Andover Central High School boys soccer team went to state again this year for the third out of the last 5 years.
Awesome.
Yeah, they didn't win.
They got third, right?
They got fourth.
Fourth.
Yeah.
They lost it.
They lost, but they played their heart out, and it was awesome to see all of them, and my biased self, my son, in his senior year, make it to state. So it's pretty awesome. That's all I got.
That's the only thing I was gonna say as far as that is that they got to go to state and actually play for it. So those folks.
Double overtime, wasn't it?
Quadruple
Oh,
overtime.
that's right.
Penalties.
Because they had to do a kickoff.
They played up to the challenge. They absolutely did.
Yeah, and I mean, I just give more to those folks, those seniors in the spring that didn't get convened in those sports. This has been a trying year, but like the mayor said, we'll be better on the other side for this and go Andover Central.
Mike?
I just want to say Godspeed to my son, Bridger, who we dropped off at Air Force Boot Camp today.
All right, man.
Nice. So, we'll see him in
Very
several
cool.
months. So,
Tim?
I just want to congratulate the Andover Central football team. They didn't end it as well as they wanted to, but those guys played really well, and they had some situations come up that they couldn't help. So they did really well, and next year I'm thinking they'll actually come through next year and actually make it to state. So that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Young lady?
I have no items.
Hey, I just want to thank you all for what you do. You know what I mean? It's a heavy load to carry sometimes. Y'all do a great job. We've had a interesting year, and Jenny and Lance and all the staff has really done a great job of helping us newbies, if you will. It's been more than usual to help us answer all of our questions, whether they're ridiculous or not. So I just want to keep reminding y'all we appreciate you. And is it 2021 yet?
Well, I was hoping I might have a chance to make a little update on COVID, if I may.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not getting better. I sent you all an email this afternoon as well as the staff. There have been several developments here locally that have caused city administration to dust off the continuation of operation plans, if you will. You are probably aware our library was shut down to the public for 2 weeks due to some COVID positives among the staff, and with a limited staff such as the library, if you take out full-time staff for quarantine, you have no one to run the library. So they were closed for 2 weeks. Our fire department is experiencing COVID, unfortunately, and we have restricted access to the fire department from other employees in order to try to protect others from what they are being exposed to daily. I serve on your response team for USD 385. They did move we voted last week to move from yellow to orange, which is a stricter level. The school board in turn made the decision to send the middle school back to a hybrid model instead of being at school daily. And they do provide their numbers of positive cases online on a weekly basis. I'm sure you've heard the hospitals are at a capacity. That is both Sedgwick and Butler County hospitals are at capacity. I do believe we have 2 ICU beds available tonight in El Dorado, and that is all. Yes, I have it from Carrie at 5:30 tonight. There's one in KMC and one at El Dorado. Those are the 2 available ICU beds.
okay, or you probably have an update on that too, don't you?
It was different, but that's fine. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
this is from the emergency manager at 5:30 PM. I just want you to know, the time is probably coming where we'll be shutting down the lobbies and the things like that again. We'll watch closely for that point where the schools go fully remote, because they are basing their decisions on a lot of data. And there are doctors, medical professional on their committee. So this is not just like an administrative-led decision over at the school, a lot of data points. So we're watching it carefully at this time. Obviously, we still have the buildings open. We would encourage you to just be wearing those masks at all times, because that's really the only thing and a pretty simple thing we can do to protect one another. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and this year, for the first year, that is one of the holidays that is acknowledged at the city of Andover, so all offices will be closed. Public safety will obviously be available, so call 911 if you need police or fire assistance, and they will be there to help. But the city hall building and lobbies, well, I guess the 911 lobby will be open, but otherwise, you won't see folks working on the city streets unless, of course, we get a freak snowstorm. So thank you for that opportunity.
And to that point, I finally, after the whole year has gone by, I have two people I talked to that one of them's an associate that I worked with for 20 years. And he said it was the most miserable thing he's ever been through in his life. He is kind of a hypochondriac, but he was still very sick. Another gentleman that, acquaintance of mine that delivers to 81 Speedway, him and his wife both had it. And he said it literally hurt to breathe. And he's a man's man, if you will. He's, big dude. And his wife, they took her to the emergency room because she hurt so bad. And they said, we can let you in, but you can take Tylenol here or take it at home. But she was so miserable that, she couldn't stand it. So, it affects some people very adversely. So it is there, it is affecting people. And some of them don't come back real quickly as far as the recovery time is not great as far as getting their oxygen levels back up. So it's something there's something there. So we may have to make big adult decisions. Sorry about that. She knows now. We may have to make we may have to relook at things. So going forward, we'll see how things go. Lance, I appreciate you being a continual thorn in my side. I appreciate it. Poor Lance. I come up to City Hall for no particular reason other than to pick on him, and he always takes it with the. Well, he swings back sometimes. So, thank y'all. So, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you all.
I just forwarded you Gary's 522.